So if you've run around in Christianity for any length of time, at some point it might come up the point, what is love anyway? If Jesus is talking about in this gospel loving the Lord your God and loving your neighbor, you have to know what it means to love. And so maybe you've heard this before, but love is not just a feeling. It's not just how you feel when you're around somebody, but it's a choice. The best definition I've heard of love is to will the good of the other. Otherwise, to want what's best for somebody else. And the only way you can know what's best for somebody else is to know somebody. If you have no context of knowing somebody, how can you love them well? If I have a kid in front of me and I give them candy, maybe that's a nice thing, but maybe they're, diabetic or something, and maybe that's not such a good thing. So everything has to be in context when it comes to love. Love is willing the good of the other. Now, we have Matthew's version of this story, and in Luke's version, right after that, we have the scholar of the law asks, "Who is my neighbor?" And then there's this story about the Good Samaritan. If you know anything about history, the Samaritans were those of the northern 10 tribes. They were ransacked and taken away when the Assyrians came and destroyed them. They split from the rest of Israel after the third king, Rehoboam, was crowned, and he was not a very generous man, and so they said, "Forget you, we don't need you, we're going to go do our own thing." So, the Samaritans and the Jews are very much not friends. And if you know the story, you have a priest, a Levite, who walk by this Jewish guy and walk all around him, try to avoid him, because they don't want to deal with this. And it's this Samaritan man who is the neighbor to this Jewish man. We live in a climate, especially right now in the midst of voting and everything, that is a little bit hostile, I've sensed. You have people on both sides yelling at each other. Everybody is very polarized, diametrically opposed. It's not a fun thing to watch, really. It's like Jerry Springer or any of these other very violent things. When I was going to vote earlier this week, do my civic duty there, I passed by a woman who was clearly homeless. And all that was running through my mind was, I'm wearing a cassock, and odds are this person is going to ask me for money. And so I'm just kind of straight-faced, just going to where I was going to go vote and do this duty of mine. And now that I've been reflecting on it, what a missed opportunity that was. Granted, I don't know if I would have ever given her money or not, but what would have happened if I just talked to her? What would happen if people on both sides of the fence of this political debate, for instance, would just speak to one another? Maybe that sounds a little bit naive, but why does somebody on one side say, I'm for opening our borders? Maybe they have family in Mexico or somewhere else that are suffering in their country and they're really worried about them. Why do I have people on the other side saying we need gun rights and gun laws? Maybe you have a fond memory of whenever you went shooting with your parents or dad or whoever, and you want to be able to do that same thing with your own kids. What would the difference be if we just took a little bit of time to listen to each other? Would that be something? Can that be the first step in this loving one another? Because again, I can't really help somebody if I don't know them. If I'm not intimately involved in their story, I'm not as likely to do anything about whatever's going on. Love is not a feeling, it's a choice. And so as we continue to try to love God by continuing to have that conversation with Him, because that's the only way we're going to get to know Him and love Him well, when we're looking at the neighbors around us, maybe we can get to know them. Maybe that can be the start of how we love them.